I'm Dr. Nan Boss. I'm going to talk today about the microbiome, the fascinating world of the bacteria and yeast that live in our bodies all the time. So the microbiome is all those trillions of bacteria and other organisms that live on our skin and in our intestinal tract. And I had no idea how much the bacteria in our intestines have to do with our brain health. And we're finding that this is being translated into care for dogs and cats as well. So probiotics are live bacteria that we take into our bodies to try to change the microbiome, to try and stimulate growth of good bacteria versus bad bacteria. So we tend to think of bacteria as just single-celled little things living all on their own, and all they do is eat and reproduce, and that's about it. But we are learning that these bacteria communicate with each other, they communicate with the cells that line the intestinal tract, and they communicate with the immune system in our bodies. And those chemical signals going back and forth also go up the vagus nerve into our brain, and our brain also does things that change how our bacteria in our intestinal tract is functioning. So there was a research study about 10 years ago where the researchers took about 40 different brands of probiotics and they analyzed them to see how many live bacteria were in there, and then they compared that to what the label said was in there, and only 2 products passed that test. Those 2 products are Fortiflora, which is made by Purina. They have both a canine and a feline version, and ProViable, which is Nutramax's product. So we've been using those 2 products for diarrhea for many years. So the health of the microbiome affects our immune system. So if our gut bacteria are healthy, our immune system functions better because, again, something like 80% of the immune system cells in our bodies are along the intestinal tract. So we've been using for quite a few years a probiotic called VSL number 3 to treat upper respiratory infections in cats, because we found that, again, if the gut bacteria are healthy, the cat's immune system functions better and they can fight off herpes virus upper respiratory infection, which is very common in cats. Purina has done a lot of research in this area, and so a year or 2 ago they came out with a really cool product called Calming Care. So this is a probiotic that directly affects anxiety in dogs. So you give them this particular probiotic, it changes how the microbiome works, and that dog is less anxious and less stressed. So the bacteria produce molecules that are like insulin, they produce molecules that are like gastrin, which is the hormone that signals us that we're full and we should stop eating. They produce a chemical very similar to serotonin, which is one of the major brain chemicals. So they're finding in people that the health of the gut bacteria is involved in Parkinson's disease, in Alzheimer's disease, in manic depression, in autism in children. We are using probiotics now to modify how our brains work and function. And that same thing is true for dogs and cats. Healthy gut biome, healthy brain function. So super cool. We can influence the brain via the gut. There's 2 main types of fiber. There's insoluble fiber, which is not digestible at all and just passes through our body and provides bulk to the stool. And then there's soluble fiber, which is the kind that bacteria feed on. And so when we're feeding a prescription diet made for gastrointestinal disease, we're going to see that fiber content broken down into this % of insoluble fiber, this % of soluble fiber. We want a mix of each, and the soluble fiber is what supports good gut bacteria. It's interesting, if you change the diet of a horse or a rabbit, you can kill them because the bacteria that were eating the original food start to starve and die, because bacteria can be very specialized, and then they produce a bunch of toxins that can cause the animal to get very sick. On the same token, with a dog or a cat, if you change food too abruptly with a different fiber source, you often end up with diarrhea because the whole bacterial balance inside the intestinal tract has to change to match what food they're eating. So the diets that we use for illness in the gastrointestinal tract, like this GI diet back here, this is very targeted as far as the amount of fiber that's included in that food, and it's designed to rebuild the beneficial bacteria and to get that pet the whole intestinal tract functioning better. And that's an intimate connection between the fiber in the food and the bacteria in the intestine. You probably don't know that if you take the gut bacteria from an obese mouse and you transplant it into a normal weight mouse, the normal weight mouse will become obese. If you transplant the gut bacteria from an outgoing, adventurous rat or mouse who likes to run the mazes and doesn't just huddle in the corner, if you transplant those into a shy, timid mouse, the shy, timid mouse becomes an extroverted mouse. So the gut bacteria affect like everything. I'm almost to the point where I think that we all ought to be taking probiotics all the time and our lives would be happy.